Hello, everybody. It's been a minute. I don't know why, but these lives, they feel so far apart. I'm sorry if you can hear the fan, but it's hot, so we're going to have to deal. I love how I always look like death because I go to the gym the night before, which is just brilliant. Honestly, it was brilliant scheduling for me. But yeah, I guess I'll just warm up a bit, giving a little bit of an update here. I'm doing pretty well. I do need to make a health update pretty soon because I am still certain things are continuing. And then certain things I've figured out, but it's like a process. But I'm noticing at this time, I definitely need more protein at this time. Like I have experimented with it and I do better with more. Hello, bot. Yes, you are first. And then my hormones are still slightly, okay, no problem. But then my hormones are still slightly trashed or like still weird with the burn off and all that. So I'm going to have to see how it goes towards June. It should peak. It should hit like a really nasty point. But I do get in bad moods often. No, I'm just kidding. Not that often. And certainly not as bad as a year ago, but still, it's like, ooh. Because it's that kind of thing where it's like my hormones are still kind of off and it's very subtle. So it's like I can feel like I'm totally normal, but I'm not. And I'm like, okay, so let's just I have to like keep it in mind. It's still going to be getting worse until June, but I'm okay. And it's just a part of burning fat and all that crap. I don't think I have the red cheeks yet. Hello, everybody. Hello, Talar. Oh my gosh. And hello, Cool Cat. Hello, Marcella. But yeah, so I'm doing pretty well. I need to do a health update soon, like I said, because things are shifting, but I just don't want to do one until I've lost more weight. But my plateau did shift where I got down to 292. And that hasn't happened. But we're really at this level that I never have gotten to. So for you guys that don't know, I've never gotten below 290 ever. The last time I saw 290 on the scale, it was June 2019. I was deep, extremely strict keto, and I literally hadn't eaten the day before because I was doing extended fasting, and that's how I got to 290. So to be almost at 290 where I'm like eating and everything, none of your business. We have secrets here. I'm just kidding. You can figure it out, then you can figure it out. Okay. Look, I'm always paranoid that I'm like, when I go live, that my social security number is just like all over the place. No. This is from junior high. Remember, I'm Gen Z. You have to remember that. I'm actually Gen Z. You guys know. I graduated high school in 2020. You know that. I missed my graduation. Anyways, so we're gonna go. Anyways, we're gonna go ahead and get started with the comments. So let me see here. I don't know what I'm doing. My brain is always scrambled. I love how I go live when I'm at like one of my worst days of the week because of the gym. I'm like always completely dead. So let's go. This week's videos were pretty big. Like they did pretty well, which I'm happy about. But it makes sense because I did more like fat acceptance-y stuff, which I wanted to because why not, right? I will say it is challenging to do it full time because you have to like really think of stuff all the time. That's the hardest part. I always tell people that because I've heard so many people be like, I really want to do YouTube, blah, blah, blah. And it's like the hardest thing about YouTube is coming up with ideas. That's the hardest part. Once you actually figure out how to film and stuff, it's not hard, but it's just like coming up with something. Like I literally was staring at the ceiling on Wednesday night before I posted the poetry one. But that was an idea I had for a long time. And it came back to me and I was like, I should do it because Taylor put out her album. So I decided to because it made me think of it. But anyways, let's go ahead and talk about William. So it was fun. I have certain fat acceptance creators that I keep up with. Before I did the William video, I did look into like anti-diet pilot and stuff, but she really didn't post anything at all. Like I do want to say that the fatosphere, fat acceptance in general, it does seem to be kind of dead, or like people are really not posting as much. There's a lot of people who have lost their accounts. There's a huge shift in the fatosphere going on. And I think in the future, especially with the TikTok ban going on, I think the future might be fat acceptance Instagram. Like I feel like a lot of them are going to Instagram instead, or, you know, they're having issues. Like I think Fat Fab Feminist, if I'm getting the name right, I think her account was taken down for a minute. She got it back though. And then like Jordan is no longer on TikTok from what I can see. Hannah Talks Body, she's gone basically. So it's like a lot of these people are kind of gone. So I think there's still fat acceptance TikToks, but it's not as plentiful as it was like in 2021. And so I wonder if that's, you know, that could be why there's less stuff, but I don't know, or why there's less people making videos or things like that. Hello, Josh. I don't know. It's just something that I'm observing and I'm letting you guys know from the inside. But yeah, because I was going to talk about Anti-Diet Pilot, but she was so boring. There was nothing there. Like, she really didn't say anything. So, but the thing with me is I can always go deep into the past. I just worry about like doing the same thing over, which is like my worst nightmare. But I knew with William, these were all new. But yeah, William is really cringy and awful. And he did this one about like the gay community. And I could not handle it whatsoever. Like, I didn't even know what he was talking about. And it's like, he was trying to use the term gay fat, which I'm like, I don't think that that's real. I've never heard that in my entire life. I do not think it's canon in the fatosphere whatsoever. Like, I think it's fake. It's some BS. We don't accept that in the curriculum here at FATU or FU. So I was not okay with it. And I didn't even put it on the video because I was like, I don't know what he's talking about. I'm like, I don't think anybody else is going to know what he's talking about. But he still had his like paranoia oriented TikToks about ED and that kind of stuff. And a lot of you guys agreed with me that he's very unlikable. Obviously, most of you guys said you don't like the performative nature of his rhetoric and how he talks. I agree. I just don't like the Mother Gothel of it all, you know? And I love that you guys told me who that was because I forgot what her name was. But to me, that's how he is. It's like, let me gaslight you, let me guilt you, let me make you feel bad about trying to do something totally normal, like go outside of a tower. You know, I feel like it would be a nightmare, absolute nightmare to date somebody like him. That's how I feel, honestly. I don't even know, but I'm kind of a bitch when I watch him because I really start thinking about like his personal life and I just kind of get nasty with it. That's why I don't cover him that much because I try to not be personal, but with certain people, I can't help it. And he's one of them. So the top comment is from Boo Squeezy. Love the name. But they said kicking hard drugs for good has a 98% failure rate, but I didn't let that dissuade me. I worked at it and have remained clean for 10 years and counting. Don't psych yourself out of trying. So yeah, I do think that I have a complicated relationship with thinking of obesity as an addiction. I think it can apply for some people, but I think it's a lot more rare than people think. So it's not that it doesn't apply to people. Like, again, I keep thinking about it and reflecting, and I'm more able to see like other people's perspectives on obesity now, especially as I'm not like so deeply in my own experience, which was so deeply tied to solely BED and hypothyroidism, which I think is a lot more common probably in a lot of fat women. That pathway is probably more common. So, in terms of like food addiction and that kind of thing, I don't know. Like, I have kind of a little bit of a bias against it because I was accused of having it so much. And so I don't really enjoy the comparison to addiction, but I do think it does exist for some. And I think that it's important for me to realize that. Foxy Bone says, I just recently started watching your channel. I came in the live to say that I really find your videos informative and I hope you're having a good day. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Um, so yeah, that's kind of my stance on it. I do think that it is similar, but I don't know. I don't think that that's everybody's experience because I see a lot of fat people that just eat really, really anti-thyroid diets or really, really fattening diets. And they're not necessarily eating like 10,000 calories a day and they're still fat. You know, it's like there is a hormonal element at play. And with obesity rising so much in women, for example, I mean, it's rising across the board, but it's definitely risen in women. I think it is important to look at hormonal and ED related issues when it comes to fatness and in regard to fighting FA rhetoric because that's who they're speaking to. They're not speaking to the person who's gaining weight by eating 10,000 calories a day. They're speaking to the person who's eating maybe 2,500 calories or 3,000 a day and who's fat and just kind of stays around the same weight or very, very slowly gains. That's their target demographic. That's who they're speaking to. They're speaking to somebody who perceives that they really don't eat that much. Why do they perceive that? Because they're hungry. So they're eating to their natural hunger cues, which have been messed up by hormonal issues due to lifestyle choices and diet choices. So I don't think that that's the same as a food addiction. Food addiction to me is when somebody gets extremely huge or like when they're eating 10,000 calories a day, or, you know, it's really extreme in my opinion. And I do know that it can be more mild. Like I've seen that in certain friends. And like Michelle McDaniel's experience, she describes her issue as a food addiction. And it was obviously more mild because she never got to be like 600 pounds, right? So I do think it does exist. It's just hard for me to get totally on board because I think it's more complicated. That's why I have such a hard time, or that's why I think a lot of people have a hard time talking about obesity because it is not a one cause thing. It's complex. There's different causes for different people, there's different solutions for different people. And, you know, I was watching Big T Bariatric and he was talking to Life After Losing on his channel, and they both had bariatric surgery and they kind of described their experience with food addiction. And it's just not something that I can really relate to. You know, for me, it was just really a bad dieting advice and ED behavior for me. So it was very clear cut. So that's probably why I didn't have to get the surgery, you know? So I think it's important for people to look at like, it's not a one size fits all and it's not a blanket thing. And people try to blanket it a lot and it's difficult to do activism in the space for that reason because everybody projects things onto it. But I will say I'm so happy for Boo Squeezy. I think I saw in another comment that Boo Squeezy actually did lose a lot of weight too, which is amazing. So it's good. Okay. So Peyton Bunch says William is so hard to watch. It's the smugness and such a surety in his words while being just stupid, just dead stupid. I agree with that. I think that it's like, to me, I call it chain email logic. Like to me, he is so chain email logic where he's like, if you do this, then you're going to cause this. It's like, if you don't send this email to 7 people, then you're going to die in 7 days. That's how he sounds to me. And it's probably a little dated. It's betraying my non-Gen Z status to say that. But for those of you who remember chain emails or like chain posts on Facebook, that's what he sounds like to me. It's that like, ooh, the ghost is going to get you. You're going to be cursed for 7 generations if you don't send this to 10 people. That's what it sounds like. Boo Squeezy also has another top comment. They say people don't die from fat phobia. They die from obesity-related illnesses and complications. It's a leading cause of death, actually. Facts. Jerry Blank says he'd be a lot prettier, quote unquote, regardless of weight if he just dropped the smug attitude and the crazy eyes. Yeah, I don't know, you guys. I think that there's something off with him. I don't know if it's hormonal, if it's just mental health wise. Yeah, yeah, pretty much the satellite man. I don't know if it's like that kind of stuff, but it's like, I don't know what it is with him. Like, I do know he has an ED history, so I wouldn't be surprised if he had like hormonal damage that he hasn't recovered from. But it's like the way the eyes are, like, I'm like, I hope he's acting. I really do, because if that's how he is in general, he is so like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know how anybody's in his life, honestly. I mean, I know that that's really harsh, but I just have to keep it 100. I really don't know, because I could not handle being around somebody like that at all. Like, ugh. Life after losing. Hello. Alice Venter says, "You're my new fave. I'm literally so obsessed with you. So smart and funny. Hello from London." Hello. Hello from London. I'm just kidding. I imagine you talk like that. From London. Oh my God. I feel like I can do, I mean, probably not by English standards, but I feel like I can do a decent one because I've been obsessed with the British ASM artist, even though he's Geordie. He's a Geordie. So it's a little different. It's a little different. That was not me trying. That was like a weird thing I'm doing. But anyways, we're moving on. So it's a super, okay. Danielle says it's a super condescending, insulting delivery that makes him particularly unpleasant to watch for me. I agree. Okay. Okay, Alice, for sure. That's all I hear. When I hear London, I think of that. And then now I think of Taylor's song too, because I'm obsessed with that woman. I can't do Russian. I can't do accents. The only ones I can do Southern, and I can do British, a little bit of British. That's about it. I got nothing else. And I used to, my ex is Australian, and I used to try so hard to do an Aussie accent, and I cannot for the life of me. But for the record, my ex could not do my accent either. So, period. It is difficult. My accent is weird. I will say, not David. He did a little bit of an impression of how I talk, and his was decent. It was decent. Yeah, I mean, mine is, I guess it's technically a Valley Girl accent, which is really scarring. But technically, that's what it is. It's Southern California. It's Valley Girl. Technically, that's what it would be. So, yeah. Yeah. And when I was I used to do, what is it called? Phone, oh my gosh, a call center job. And people would be like, "Why are you talking through your nose like that? Why do you talk like that?" Blah, blah. And I'd be like, "I'm from California, sorry." And they're like, "Oh gosh." Like everybody I'd say that to, they'd be like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Oh my gosh." Like all over the rest of the country, when I tell somebody I was from California, the whole rest of America would be like, "Ooh, I'm sorry. Oh my gosh, that's terrible. Oh gosh. Oh, I hate California." Oh, like that's all you would hear. It's like, but to the rest of the world, California is seen as like bougie kind of, but to Americans in general, it's seen as like trash and like really awful to live in California. So it's kind of funny, but anyways, it was like I told them that I was like, born cursed, that I was from California. um, but yeah, and literally it'd be like all over. It'd be all over the world, like, or not the world, all over the country, because I'd get calls from the whole country, and you'd get that response anywhere. Like, you get it from a New Yorker, like, it didn't matter. It wasn't actually even political. Like, I get it from people in Michigan, I get it from people in like the South, I get it from people in like Montana, in New York, Florida, like everywhere. They'd be like, ooh, oh, you know. Oh my gosh. Oh, yeah. Foxy Bone says, I'm kind of jealous you're in Cali. I'm not in Cali. I'm in Alabama. I'm in Alabama. That's where I live now. I live here in the South. So I'm in Alabama now. I'm not in California. I basically, I ran. I escaped California. That's how I would describe it. It was an escape. Um, I ran from Cali. It was awful, but I went straight to El Paso, which was just as bad, but in like a completely different way. It was like the equal opposite, and it was a complete lateral move. But living in Alabama, it's the first place I'm like, okay, I actually like, I'm neutral to I like it. It's like a it's a okay, I'm like, okay, this is okay. That's how I feel about Alabama. Because El Paso was horrible. California was horrible. I just like that it's very pretty here. It's kind of like it's really, really pretty, and it's pretty peaceful. It is boring, I will say. It can be boring. There has been, like, moments where I've been bored to death. So that does exist. It's very, very slow paced, but it has been really good for my hypo recovery. This has been, like it's like my big hospital. This is where I have recovered, because there's a lot less pollution. It's a lot more naturalistic. It's slower paced. It has its issues. Everywhere has problems. Like, people here cannot drive to save their life, but I think people can't really drive anywhere in America. I feel like I don't think it matters where you're at. People just cannot drive. So, because I've had issues like that everywhere. But yeah, I agree. California is so expensive. It is. It's super expensive. Um, and then, like, there's just so much crime, and it's so, like, normalized, that I just oh gosh, I don't wanna be there. I just don't. Ugh. But I do wanna visit again. Like, all my friends are there. I still, like I don't hate California. Like, I don't. I just it's like a disappointment, because it used to be really great, and then it's horrible. It just got horrible and just kept getting worse, and that's basically what it was. But yeah, up until like 2012, it was really great. And then after 2012, it just took a shit, and it just got worse and worse and worse. And it's just gotten worse, basically. It's like horrible now. So I don't think I would ever live there again permanently. Like, I would visit just to be with friends and to escape the winter. I hate winter. So I hate I mean, Alabama winter is probably about as mild of a winter you could get, but I still hate it, and it kills me. Kills my hypo ass every year. So I wish I could go to Cali for the winter, but other than that, I'd be like, I'm out. Peace. Bye. Bye, Felicia. Like, I'm getting the hell out of here. I do not want to pay those Cali taxes. I don't want to pay any of that. It's not worth it. Okay, anyways, moving on. Sorry about that. We got a little bit of a little bit off track there. Um, okay. So JD Hutchinson says William is awful. Think of someone considering weight loss running to this. He's my inner toxic voice telling me to settle in because I can't ever succeed anyway. Honestly, though, the chances of beating a food addiction are like beating METH, but you can. Yeah, like I said, I don't know about the food addiction aspect, but you can defeat it for sure. Um, you can. Yeah, just to finish, I guess just to give the full picture, Foxy, El Paso was like the complete opposite of California. So it was like extremely cheap. Like they basically almost pay you to live there because they're like begging people to stay because it was like, it was so cheap. Like you don't understand how cheap El Paso was. But like it was very like, I feel like everybody in El Paso either was escaping an abusive household, living in one, on drugs, going to end their own life, or knew somebody who did. I mean, it was not a nice place. I literally feel like El Paso is cursed. Like there's some witchcraft going on there. Like there's a military base there. I felt like they were doing experiments there. Like I remember one time I was driving, um, and I saw lightning strike the same place like 3 or 4 times. And I was like, "What the hell is going on at that military base?" Like, and really, it was crazy. I just couldn't deal with it. It was horrible. Like, everywhere there felt haunted. It's a very weird thing to say, but it's just so ugly too. It's so monochromatic. Everything is brown, and they paint the houses the same color as the dirt. So everything is the same color, and it's so hot, and it is like hot, it's hotter than hell, honestly. It was just so awful. And then the place I lived there, it was infested with cockroaches. So like almost everywhere there is infested with cockroaches. Even where I worked had cockroaches. It was really bad. But it was so cheap. So like coming from California, and like California is so classist. Like it's honestly the most classist place ever, probably in the whole world. Um, like your whole experience in California will be incredibly different based on how much money you have. Whereas El Paso was the complete opposite. It's like it didn't matter how much money you had, you would be treated exactly the same. So it was really weird. But yeah, it's very depressing. It's a very miserable place. I would not suggest it at all. It's super depressing, super like just, ugh, gosh, it was horrible. Okay, but the total opposite. So it was really weird. Um, okay. Jim Dilettante said, my wife was overweight or obese for her whole life until 10 years ago, and she changed her lifestyle, lost 120 pounds, got super fit, and never gained it back. So that's the thing, too. Like, William is so obsessed with, like, you will gain the weight back. And that's not true. You will not necessarily gain the weight back. That's a lie. So that's the other aspect too. Like I think that's where a lot of women, they probably have this like BED restrict and B cycle. And so they project that onto everybody else's experience. And that's not the case. So I think that's what that's what I'm realizing. And I think that's what we all have to realize, that FU is that people project a lot of stuff in terms of their obesity. They will project their experience onto everybody. And I really don't think that it's the same for everyone. That's what makes this such a difficult issue to pin down. It makes it difficult to study. It makes it difficult to find solutions and even to offer solutions. Because I've tried to say to you guys a lot, like when I make suggestions, I'm talking from super morbidly obese, hypothyroid perspective, which is a very specific thing. And it's like, even within that, you can be stricter or less strict. It totally depends on your lifestyle and what your level of health is. So it's incredibly difficult for anybody to prescribe a diet to somebody. It's very difficult because you really can't. Like, we have to save ourselves from obesity. Like, you cannot have somebody else save you. Like, nobody's going to give you the absolute answer. And that needs to be normalized too, because I do have people that ask me for advice and ask me for certain things. And it's like, I can help if I know a specific issue you're having or if you have a specific problem. But if you're like, just tell me in general, it's like, I can't. I'd have to know your whole situation. So I do want to talk more about diet and stuff probably in the future, but it's really difficult because I don't like, I've been working on a podcast with my friend Lisa, and we're going to write a book at some point. And we have like a disagreement where she wants us to write like suggested macros. And I don't, because I'm like, I think it's different for everybody. And she's like, well, we need to have some kind of guideline or an example. And so we're kind of like even discussing that. It's like the whole dieting paradigm, it has to change because it is not a one size fits all. And the only universal thing that I can honestly say is that seed oils are unhealthy, which is why I will say that, because that's pretty much anybody. But for something like soy, it's like soy can be okay for some people. Soy is a food, like it's a real actual food, But for some people, it's not okay. It's the same thing with alcohol. It's like some people are completely fine and some people are not. Like you can't make all these blanket statements. There's only really that one blanket statement. And it's, because in my opinion, seed oils are not food. It's like a chemical byproduct / machinery lubricant. It's not actually food. But things like soy and beans, like they are food. They can be useful for some people, but for me, it would not be useful at this time. So it's really difficult. It's a very difficult issue. That's why this keeps getting worse. Yeah. Life After Losing says, I agree with you. Guidelines are not set in stone unless it has to do with breathing or our need for water. Yeah, I mean, you have to just see, like, I always just say, find the way where you can get into a deficit and stay in it. So, whatever macros that is at whatever time, be okay with it changing. There are times when I need less protein, times when I need more, times when I need more carbs, times when I need less. Like, your journey is not static. It's a dynamic journey, and your body's needs are always changing with the seasons and with different sizes. So it's totally different throughout the time. So it's impossible to write a prescriptive diet. It is completely impossible. I don't care what they say. It is impossible. Okay. Anyways. Let's see. Oh my gosh, this comment made me die. So Ramiro says, I love William's TikTok. It's unintentionally an abusive boyfriend POV. Wild to say that you don't know what your spouse does to lose weight because at some point you go to sleep. Technically, I'm not wrong, but damn, that was hilarious. I died because I'm somebody where I watch a lot of like ASMR. And so I watched like a lot of those like, POV type of videos. So when he wrote that, I died. I absolutely died. It was so funny. It was hilarious. Yes, it was so funny because it kind of is. Like, I really feel like that's how he is. Like, I don't know. And he needs to change. Like, he does not understand how he's coming across. I really don't think he does. Okay. I think we're good on that one. But yeah, I had to read that comment. That comment was so funny. So we're going to move on to Splotch. So it was funny. I asked Eric what he thought about the Splotch video, and Eric was like, she's boring. And I'm like, she is boring. I feel like Splotchmaker at this point, I don't know if she's getting less healthy or she has less to say or something, but I feel like she's one of the only ones that's really still in the fight for fat acceptance. Yeah, I totally get that, cool cat. Yeah, I feel like she's just tired or like the fight is just not there, even though she's still trying to hold up the fat acceptance movement. But it's like everything she says is so uninspired. And the word that kept coming to my mind was pedestrian. It's like everything she was talking about, it was pedestrian. It's like the most basic, irrelevant issues that don't matter, issues that are like only somebody who's extremely privileged or somebody who has nothing to worry about would even care about. Like if somebody makes a fat joke, it's like, are you kidding me? It's like, I'm sorry, like, I'm not trying to be like, you know, your struggles don't matter, but at the same time, it's like, "Hun, like, clearly you're not struggling for money right now. Clearly, you're not doing anything." I don't even know if she has a job at this point. Like, if that's your biggest concern, like, I just can't relate at all. It is, like, the most pedestrian, boring issues ever. And a lot of people were, like, kind of upset, not really upset, but like, "Oh my gosh, Alex, you're so, like, mean," or "Wow, you're so mean in this video." But to me, it was like, first and foremost, like, I don't like her. I don't. There are a lot of creators in this space where they're the kind of people where they're like, "I don't dislike anybody that I talk about, blah, blah, blah." I don't have any ill will towards anybody. And it's like, I'm not like that. Like, there are people in this movement, in the fat acceptance movement, that I don't like, and she is one of them. I really don't like her as a person. I just cannot stand her. I feel like we would mix like oil and water on so many levels. It's the same way with William. Like, I think I would mix with him like oil and water. We would never get along. Yeah, pretty much. Iconographic. I'm just like, I don't like these people. Like, I'm not gonna get on here and be like, I don't have any issue with anybody, or I don't dislike any of them. Like, I'm not gonna do that. I do dislike them. And with Splotch, I dislike her. I think her boringness is she's so boring, she actually makes me angry. That's how boring she is. It's to a whole other level. And so for me, it's like I was getting frustrated listening to her. Like, if you watch the video, I was okay in the beginning. And then towards the end, I was like, just shut up. Like, oh my gosh, like, I cannot stand this anymore. You're driving me nuts, towards the end. And it's like, I also felt like I had to put some life into this video because she was so boring that if I wasn't saying anything, the video would have been really boring too. And it's like, what I'm talking about needs to be said, because that boring pedestrian mindset, it can come from obesity and from hypothyroidism. It can change the way your brain thinks. And it's like you become less creative. You become more restricted in how you think and express yourself. And I think that that's happening to her. Like, her brain is starting to melt from likely hypothyroidism from her vegan diet, which people don't like it when I say that. Her veganism is not helping her, and her obesity. The combination of the two, her heavy seed oil consumption diet, it is affecting her brain. It is rotting. And I will point that out because I've had that before, because I've had a heavy seed oil diet. I know what it looks like. I know what she's going through. And even last year, I was kind of boring, honestly. Like, I was really dealing with that. And it's hard when you're in a very boring mindset to make content on YouTube. Like, it totally sabotaged my channel, and it sabotaged what I was doing because I became really boring like her. And so it's like, I think people, they read too much into it. It's like, I may not like her, but I don't hate her. And just because I don't like her doesn't mean I don't understand her. And it doesn't mean I don't understand where it's coming from. I understand where it's coming from. It's just pointless because she's constantly saying that she's so healthy, but it's very obvious that she isn't. She's not. She's very unhealthy. So it's like her brain is rotting in her head. And I will point it out because she's really young, you guys. I think she's like in her early 20s. She is the most boring early 20s girl I have ever seen in my whole life. Like, honestly, like, when I was in my early 20s, I was constantly in drama and fighting and like going from place to place. And we're always doing something and we're going, going, going. And I was really hypo and really obese and really unhealthy. And it's like her brain rot is to a level that I only got to towards my 30s or late 20s. So she's like almost 10 years ahead of me. It's like, girl, you're not going to make it. I'm sorry. Like, your health is really bad because when you're young, you're supposed to have like youth and like a spirit of youth and like an adventurous nature. And like, you want to go out and do things, and she doesn't. And it's like, honey, you're only going to get more and more in your house the older you get. Like, you are not going to get those years back. You're never going to be as adventurous as you are in your early 20s. And it's sad to me. It's really sad. honestly. And it's like, this should not be normalized. This is not normal. I will not accept it as normal. I think it's disgusting. And it does make me angry because she's wasting her life. And I'm not, and then not only that, but she's encouraging others to do the same. So, um, yeah, Emily says she's clearly chemically unbalanced. Yeah, she is. Mark C says being boring is often a trauma response. I can't help but have some sympathy towards those people for those things because I can see how traumatized they are as being someone who was like that myself. Yes. LOL, I typed that before you said that. Yes, I totally agree. And I've been that way too. Like it happened to me more so in my late 20s, but I was also deathly ill. And even last year, I got a lot of healing done last year, but I really resent how boring I was last year. Like I resent it. Like it makes me angry. Like because it feels like a waste of a year. And I'm like, oh hell no. So I don't know why, but now in 2024, I'm like, I gotta be like twice as interesting. In 2024, I gotta catch up on not being a boring sack of potatoes like I was last year. It's like, ugh. And it's so unattractive and it's just so like, oh gosh. Ugh, I just hate it. Oh gosh. Anyways, that's why she made me so mad. um, oh yeah, totally. I mean, I think people can be adventurous for sure, but I just think there's something different about that pre-25 brain. There's just something different. I do think for some people they can become more so, but it's just different. That's how I see it. Like I still want to do things and be adventurous, but it's not the same as when I was that age. Like when I was that age, it's like you have like a fire for life and you have a fire for like everything. I don't know how to explain it. It's like everything's a huge deal. Everything's this, everything's that. Like it's just different. Like when you're older, it's just like things are more strategic. It's like there's less passion, there's more strategy. And you just can't recapture that. You know, that's my view anyways. Like you can't. It's just not the same. Anyways. But it doesn't mean you have to be like you're 85 years old if you're 30. Like that's not what I'm saying either. It's just it's a different quality of adventure. It's a different thing. Okay. Let's see. She says trust fat people. This is from Boo Squeezy. She says trust fat people when they tell you about their experience, but then when they come out and say that they're in constant pain physically and emotionally and feel much better after losing the weight, then she says they have no authority to speak on the topic. She's such a hypocrite. Then people can't have an opinion according to her because they can't possibly understand. But fat people who disagree with her are likewise dismissed. She calls them self-haters and validates their experiences. Only people who parrot FA talking points are allowed to have an opinion. Yes, I agree completely with that statement. Yes, Doris, it's the first time. Yes, exactly. But yeah, it's like I just don't I don't know. I mean, I think Splotchmaker is one of the most like she projects one of the most onto other people. And then people will literally say, "Hey, Splotch, like I have a totally different experience than you." And she just ignores it. Or she'll just be like, "You're lying," or "You're self-hating," or "You just hate fat people." It's like, oh my gosh. Like it's not even a creative argument or anything. It's just horrible. Um, Hunted by Stingrays says, or maybe the satellite man, I don't know. I'm getting different things here, but I'm seeing that the pictures are the same. They say, I think I'd have a mental breakdown if I thought I had so little control over my life as Splotch thinks she has over hers, or as she has in hers. Yes, exactly. I mean, it's like, I agree that we cannot have control over every aspect of our life. And I agree that we cannot, like I'm not one of those people that's like systemic issues don't matter at all. Like that's not how I feel. But I feel like in the issue of obesity, systemic issues are drastically overestimated in this issue. I don't speak on every single issue. I don't speak on everything. You know, I'm not a fat activist where I try to be political and talk about every single political issue like they do, which is also stupid because you can't know everything about every issue. That's something I resent about social media in general. But it's like when it comes to the issue of fatness, systemic issues are greatly overestimated. I guarantee you, it is like vastly overestimated. It is mostly due to personal behavior. And there are some issues that are systemic, like I will say over and over, much to the chagrin of my haters, like seed oil consumption literally being considered a food group in the American diet suggestions. They now say that seed oils are a food group, which is insane. So when people are like, oh gosh, you're so dumb talking about seed oils, the government is literally saying it's a food group. Make it make sense. It is not a food group, it is an additive. It's insane. So that is a systemic issue in regards to obesity, yes, but you don't have to listen to it. Nobody's holding a gun to your head and telling you you have to eat 10 million seed oils a day. So it's like, yeah, look at it, Emily. Look at it. You can look it up. Look up the dietary guidelines for, I think, 2020 to 2025. It literally says that vegetable oils, seed oils are a food group. It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. It's insane. So they keep promoting it more and more. That's a systemic issue. Yes. But that's like, yeah. I mean, and then the people, which I have a hater that was in the next video, which I'll get into that spat that I got in with him. And he's like boomer logic. And it's like he was really, really raging for seed oils. He's like, there's zero evidence that seed oils are unhealthy. You cannot say that. That is so dumb to speak in absolutes like that. That is not true. Zero is way too strong of a word. And most studies that use seed oil consumption is talking about like a teaspoon a day, you guys. It's a very, very tiny amount. It's not suggesting it as an entire food group. And there's a huge difference between having a little bit of something and having a ton of it. It's a huge difference. I agree that having a tiny amount for most people is not going to have an effect. But if it's literally replacing all your saturated fat, you're going to have a problem because it can be extreme. That's like saying having a glass of wine is the same as having 2 bottles of tequila a day. It's ridiculous. Is ridiculous. But that is what the logic is. It is stupid. Okay, let me see. So Emelita says, in my teens and 20s, when I was deeply into the FA rhetoric and believed all their arguments, I was the sickest I have ever been. I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis at 3, so I have always struggled with chronic pain and aversion to physical activity. I packed on over 100 pounds in the span of a few years and deluded myself into believing it was out of my control, just my genetics, and there was nothing I could do about it. I could barely walk. I was constantly sweating and out of breath, on over 15 different medications to control my disease symptoms, and absolutely miserable. Over the last few years, I managed to finally figure out that everything they taught me was a lie, and I've lost 100 pounds, gotten off all but 2 of my medications, and can walk 5 miles a day without any issues. My pain levels are so improved, and my mental health is better than it's ever been. I used to feel so powerless. Now I feel unstoppable. I feel so sorry for my younger self that I let things get so bad and didn't think I could fix it. Life is only getting better from here. I love that comment. I think it's so relevant. Well, just be careful, life after losing. Yeah, it's an amazing comment. And I was honestly just like, that is just beautiful. I should probably pin that, actually. I'm going to pin it. But that's really the point here. You know, it's like we have to be honest about it. It doesn't help to lie. Yes, I agree with that, cool cat. I agree completely. But it's, you know, I mean, a lot of people understand that about the food pyramid because it's way too much starch. It's way too much. Like, that's a lot of calories. Even if you're just looking at it calorically, it's a lot. And it's like, how are you supposed to get enough other nutrients if you're eating like 10 servings of bread a day? It's like they really overestimate how much nutrition is in bread. It's really not the best. Like nutritiously, it just isn't. Like if you compare it to fruit or meat or dairy, the amount of bioavailability and everything is so much less in bread. I'm not saying bread is bad. Once again, I feel like I constantly have to talk and like say disclaimers because I don't think it's bad. It's just the suggested amount is bad. It's like, why? Why should we have 10 servings of bread a day? That's crazy. That doesn't make any sense, especially if you're trying to lose weight. Like, that makes zero sense. It doesn't make any sense. Like, come on, you guys, you know? I'm like, if you're trying to gain weight, sure. I think that'd be great to like build muscle or something, you know? Because then your protein can go to the muscle. But it's like, if you're super morbidly obese, you're not trying to gain weight. Like, come on. Let's, you know, most people are not that active to burn that many calories. Yeah, that's true, BBJ. You constantly have to talk in disclaimers because you're talking to a highly adrenal audience who have been through a lot, which is why they got fat. Yeah, probably. Well, and also like this horrible diet culture that's like so black and white or like ridiculously black and white. And it's like, no, like for me personally, I'm kind of like almost I will never have a seed oil again, but it's because I almost died. You know, it's like I ate so much of them that they almost killed me. But that's a very specific experience. And so that's why I personally will never include them in my diet again. But do I judge people if they do? No, I don't. I really don't. I'm not morally affronted if somebody has it. It doesn't bother me. It just bothers me when it's being promoted or like really brought up as like this great thing that we should replace our entire diet with. I mean, it's crazy. But to me, it's like I will spill some tea. On my birthday last year, I had a little bit of seed oil because I had like a salad dressing at a restaurant. But it isn't as bad if you have a high saturated fat meal with it. So for me, it's like I had a blue cheese dressing, which blue cheese has a lot of saturated fat in the dressing. And I also had a steak and potatoes and butter and like all this stuff in that meal. It was really good. But I had a little bit of the dressing and I didn't care and it didn't affect me that much. But it was like a little tiny amount, you know? So it's like even me, somebody who's super strict when it comes to that, even I was okay with just a touch. It's not a big deal in terms of like a touch, but it's like if it's your whole life, if it's like half of your calories are coming from it, you're going to have a problem. And I used to be that person. Like I would eat chips every single day. I would have it all the time. Like if you think of like a bag of Takis, it's like 880 calories, half of which is probably from the seed oils. That's a lot. It's excessive, you know? And so it's like people don't think about it. It's like, think of it like alcohol. You know, it's kind of similar. So would you just binge drink every single day and expect to not have a problem? It's like, no, you wouldn't. You know, it's like, think of it that way. It's like, but is alcohol going to kill you if you have it once? No, it's not. It really isn't. Look at my little hair thing. So it's a gray area. It's not like the boogeyman, but it's also like alcohol isn't the boogeyman either. But we don't encourage everybody to have it every meal all the time forever. We don't make it a food group. Alcohol is not a food group, you guys. You know, we don't do that. So it's like think about it more logically. Yeah. Let's see. Andrew Huberman always talked about how seed oils aren't bad and people should have more. It's weird to me. It makes you wonder how often science is detached from reality like that. Not saying science is wrong. There's just a lot more nuance to it than what was initially expected. It's honestly just like, I think certain things in science sometimes, this isn't sometimes, the issue is not with science. It's that certain studies are promoted over others. And then you reach a point where like a certain consensus has been made. So like in the 60s, saturated fat was decided it was bad. And so that means that every single study and every single finding is written with the assumption that saturated fat is bad. And that's not how science should be, because I would read seed oil studies where it literally showed, like, in these rat studies, these seed oils cause fatty liver in these rats. But it would still, the way that the writing was about it, it would talk about in terms of how saturated fat is bad, or it would make it all fat. Like, it would lump that fat with saturated fat because of the bias. So it's like, it's not a matter of like science is wrong or this or that. It's just sometimes there are these dogmatic ideas in science, which the idea of saturated fat being bad, it is now in question heavily, and it is being kind of debunked in the scientific community. So I think that these studies in the future, it will show more of these issues. Like, it's starting to get better. So science does fix itself in that sense. But there can be times where instead of science, we have dogma and we have bias. And the idea that saturated fat is bad, that is such a bias in the scientific community, that they will say seed oils are good simply because they believe that saturated fat is bad. So that's, I think, what happened. Not to mention there is corporate money involved in scientific studies. Yeah, there's like a lot of stuff. But I would never say, like, if you just cut the seed oils, you guys, your whole life is going to be saved and you're going to lose all the weight and you're going to be great. Like, no, it's just one step in many steps I took. It's just one aspect of an entire picture. There is no one thing. There is no miracle cure. There is no one solution. Like, this is all diet culture BS, which I hate. Like, it's like, think about what I do, you guys. I cut seed oils. I reduced estrogenic foods, like soy and dates and certain foods that are just not as great, or nuts. You know, I reduced PUFA foods, so foods that have those fatty acids in them, like nuts, for example. I exercise. I count calories. I do a little bit of intermittent fasting. I go to the gym. I lift weights. I also walk all the time. Like, if you look at the whole picture, I make sure I get enough sleep, or I make sure I sleep as much as I can. I mean, I don't drink. I don't smoke weed. Like, look at the lifestyle factors. I mean, it's a lot of stuff. So seed oils alone did not save me. And that's not something that I'm saying. But what I am saying is, I get frustrated because when people try to lose weight, they tend to lean heavily into seed oils, and that can sabotage your effort. And the only thing that I care about is, I don't want somebody who's trying to lose weight to sabotage themselves, especially from a super morbidly obese perspective. It's like, that diet culture is just as much of an issue as fat acceptance. They feed into each other. They like funnel into each other. And I just want that to be broken. Like, we need to smash that completely. So I want that gone. Like, I want this tug of war to end, and I want this to be over, because it doesn't work. It doesn't work. You can find people who have protein bars that have seed oils in it and they've lost the weight, of course. But it's like, you have to just look at it from an individual perspective. How much were they having? For how long? What else were they doing? It's not going to be a catch-all. Nothing is a catch-all. It's like saying, oh, thank you, Car Buncher. It's like saying that exercise does nothing. It's like, that's not true. But is exercise going to be the difference between being fat and being thin? No, it's not. And people will say it's only diet. And it's like, okay, sure. But if you're too hungry, then how are you going to stay in a deficit? Are you going to live off of, like, I was playing Sims yesterday. Are you going to live like my Sim and just have snow cones and pineapple juice and just eat the right amount of calories of that, and you're going to be perfectly fine? It's like, I don't think so. So that's what frustrates me, is those kind of like black and white statements. It's always holistic. Like, you always have to look at it holistically. It's the same with the cause. It's the same with the solution. So for some people, bariatric surgery is their only way, or it's the way that they needed to take. I don't think we should judge. For other people, it's something else. For other people, it's this. For other people, it's that. It's like, I don't know. We can't speak to everything. It's very frustrating. Okay, let me see. So fake ABR asks, what are your energy levels like after doing those things? I've lost 150 pounds and made tons of changes and still I feel like my energy sucks, but I have other disabilities that might be a factor. So my energy is a lot better than it used to be. It probably will continue to get better. My honest suggestion is probably reduce seed oil consumption. If you're having a lot of that, probably eat more meat if you're not eating enough, and just make sure you're getting all your nutrients. Like I figured out recently that I'm burning through iron really fast. I think because I'm hypo. So because hypothyroidism, it can cause iron deficiency, and iron deficiency can cause hypothyroidism. It's this weird thing. So for me personally, right now, at this moment in my journey, I'm realizing I have to start eating a lot of high iron foods because I'm personally burning through iron fast. And it's causing restlessness and all these different things. But yeah, get your nutrients balanced. So there might be something you're missing because sometimes we have holes in our diet that we don't realize, or maybe our body just needs more of something at a specific point in time. So I try to promote the idea that a diet is dynamic. It's not static. So something that worked at a bigger size may not work at a smaller size. Like I'm finding now that I'm in a more, morbidly obese territory, I need more protein. When I was bigger, I needed less protein. So it's like it changed. It's changing. So now I'm having a lot of days I'm having like 12 eggs a day. I have like 12 medium eggs in a day. And it's making me feel so much better because I just need less carb and more protein now. But before I needed more carb and less protein to be satisfied. So it's like you just have to change with the times, and that's okay. That's why I'm just like, we cannot give a prescription. We can't. And I get it. Everybody wants an answer that's so easy, but it isn't. That's why it keeps getting worse. It's very frustrating. I guess we can move on to the next video, which we kind of already talked about the seed oil thing, so I don't really need to get into that spat, but I did get in a fight with somebody on there. If you want to see me be really sassy and call somebody dumb and all that, then you can see that over there. We'll just skip over that video. And we'll go to slam poetry soon. Carmentra says, I lost some weight, was lethargic AF until I realized I have an iron deficiency and vitamin D deficiency. Yes, like, I've been talking with Bot a lot about how I have very low dopamine, and I have struggled with it for a while. And I think it's because my body is, in particular, at this moment, really burning through iron. It's using it really quickly. And you need iron to create dopamine. And it could be that I have a low dopamine, and so my body's trying to use the iron to create it. But either way, it's like, then support your body in this moment in whatever way it needs. So that's what I'm learning, and that's what I'm going to encourage you guys to do. Yes. Yes. Yeah, no, of course, ABR. I'm just saying, like, that's what I would suggest in that type of situation. Because those are just more common things and or common issues. But yeah, I would say as far as my experience, I have drastically more energy than I did like 3 years ago. Drastic. It's not even comparable. Like I couldn't sustain work. I could only work like 3 hours a day in 2021. Whereas now it's like I work pretty much full time and I do YouTube full time at the same time. And I go to the gym and I am in a deficit. So it's like I'm doing a lot now and I have a lot of energy. I have an active job. So I'm walking like 3 or 4 or 5 hours a day some days, even still being morbidly obese. And then so it's like I work, then I come home, I do YouTube late at night, I go to the gym at night. So there are times when I work, come home, film, then gym, then go to bed and get up and do it again. So, I mean, I have a lot of energy compared to how I used to. Because before it was like I couldn't do anything. Like I couldn't handle anything. I could barely get out of bed. I could only work 3 hours a day. I mean, it's bad. So it's like, yeah, it's just without even saying. So that would be my experience. It's like crazy. But yeah. Tessa says, I love your videos. Love that you can be sassy and empathetic at the same time. I appreciate that, Tessa. Cool Cat says, best thumbnail, worst FA activist, and even worse poetry. Yes. So it was so much fun to do the thumbnail. I will say, Taylor got me fucked up. Like, she literally, like, when I was trying to get in that position, it like made my back cramp and stuff. I don't know what the heck Taylor smoked when she got in that position, but it was a lot. It was a lot. But I figured it out, back cramps and all. And I loved it. I love the album. And I was like, let's do this. So I made it. And then I made it my Instagram photo. And it triggered David. I just want you guys to know that it triggered David. That's all I care about. I have to give tea. He's like, what is that picture? And I'm like, you know what it is. Don't make me say it. Don't make me say it. You already know. You already know. But I'm so glad you guys loved it. It was so much fun to do, and it's so extra and so dramatic. And I love it. And I'm a Swiftie. I just am. Like, I'm a Swiftie who not only is a Swiftie, but I really hated the Midnights era. So I am so relieved and so happy with this new album. So of course I'm going to celebrate it. Okay, so let's look at the comments. Existential Gamer says, there's no wordplay, no interesting poetic cadence. You're right. It's just a spoken rant that probably originated on the internet. Skullface. Completely. It wasn't poetry. I mean, a lot of you guys agreed with that. It was just a disaster, basically. I will give you guys some tea in the live. We are going to cover, she did a stand-up thing too. So I'm going to react to that at some point, probably next week. So we're going to do that too. So that's coming. But I don't want to combine it in that video because I was like, you know what? I can do this later. So that'll be just like, sometimes we just want to have fun, right? So it's kind of like a different, it's like a different little, I don't know. I think it's fun to have like fun videos sometimes. We're doing it, Cool Cat. We're doing it. But that'll be later. That'll be next week. At some point. But yeah, a lot of you guys were scarred, honestly, by the poetry. Like you guys were like so like some people were so cringed out. Like this one comment, I need to see if I can find it. Somebody was like, I can only watch it 5 minutes at a time because they couldn't handle it. Yeah, somebody said Michelle Owens says, it's taking me all day to watch this because I can only handle 5 minutes at a time. It's so funny. So funny. It was bad. It was bad. Honestly. Cool Cat says, I think Cool Cat is here. Cool Cat says, now, I am not one for poetry, but this has to be the worst poetry I've ever seen. There's no rhythm at all. There's literally no structure. Even haikus have structure and they don't have to rhyme. Even the Boondocks did it better than her and it was supposed to be bad. At least use ABAB or AABB structure, please. Yes. Oh my gosh. It was so bad. It was bad. Oh gosh. Okay, Amber asks, I feel like most anti-fat reaction channels like the Foodie Beauty and Amberlynn ones have huge issues that are making fun of someone with worse issues than them to distract from theirs. Your thoughts? I think it depends. I'm not like super involved in girl world, obviously. Um, I think my favorite kind of girl world person is probably gosh, what's her name? I love that I forgot her name. Oh, Glitter and Lasers. It's like she gets a lot of hate, but I actually enjoy covering her because it's not so dark. It's weird and like crazy to me, but it's not dark in a sense of like, oh my gosh, like I haven't looked at Foodie Beauty, but I feel like there's a lot there. I need to get into it more. And I did watch Shaped by the Algorithm. So I don't, I'm not like an Amber expert, but I think like the only person I can really speak on is like Mr. Snowflake. And I feel like he is really mean towards Amber because he liked her. So I think there's a lot of times where people in girl world, they were fans of these people. And Kelly, how dare you be late? That's detention. I'm just kidding. We're in university, so you don't get detention or anything. But if we were doing a test right now, the door would have been locked. I just want you to know that. But anyways, so basically, I feel like a lot of people, it's like the pedestal falling moment, or like people, they believe that they're going to lose weight, or they believe in them in a sense, and then they're disappointed. And I've had that experience where I feel like I disappointed my ex with my weight loss attempts, but it was because I had BED. So they were not true dieting efforts. They were rooted in ED, which I try really hard to differentiate on this channel because, I'm speaking to the girlies especially, but also the boilies that experience that. And we need to get out of those cycles. So I try a lot. Like I did that a lot in the one where I talked about the dietitian, where I was like, if you're thinking about dieting in this way where it's like, I have to lose the weight as fast as possible, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you're thinking in an ED mindset. And one of you guys said that I should make a sticker to put on your mirror of like a look of judgment if you're having an ED moment. And I thought that was hilarious. So it is in my notes for like a merch thing at some point, because unlike William, I actually want you to get better. I will say, unlike William, I'm actually recovered. Sorry, that's really harsh, but I can't help it. So yeah, so I try really hard because for those of us that have this issue, it's difficult to differentiate between a diet and an ED episode. So I'm trying to provide clarity, and I want you guys in general to understand the difference. You can help somebody in your life if they're having that, and just offer a little bit of like, hey, like just slow down, or let's be rational about it, or that kind of thing, because you're not always aware that you're doing it. So it's important. Yes, that was massive shade. I'm sorry. But yeah, so I think a lot of people, they don't understand that aspect of the ED and how it is cyclical. Because I think Amberlyn Reed, I've said I'm pretty sure she's BED because she really does lose the weight and then she gains it back. So it's like there's some element of self-control when she's losing it. So I think it's more complicated than just food addiction for her. I'm not saying she doesn't have it. I don't know her. I don't know her experience in that sense. I just see the patterns and I can see that she has that other issue. So I think a lot of people, they just hate them because they're not getting better. And so that can happen too, where there's a little bit of a bias because there's the pedestal falling moment. Because I think a lot of people in the you know, in that community, they're like, no shade on anybody. I'm not shading anybody, okay? But they're kind of nerdy and they're like watching people and they're like fans of people. And I'm not saying that from a place of judgment. You guys know I'm like the biggest Taylor Swift fanboys, just ridiculous levels of obsession and total fandom and obsession. Okay, so I'm not judging, but I'm just saying I think when you go from like really liking somebody to hating them, then there's kind of a bias, and I think that that can happen. So I think that's what happens. I need to know what channel that is, Amber. I don't know which one that is, but let me know because I'll watch it. Um, Okay, Satellite Man says, nah, the ALR foodie channels come from a place usually where they wanted them to succeed or do anything productive. Yeah. Yeah, I think that they're disappointed over time. So, yeah, Kiana, she's very sweet. She's almost too sweet for me. I feel like when I watch her videos, I feel like I just drank like, or I just ate a bunch of frosting. It's like, whoa. Because for me, like, I'm more of a spicy girly than a sweet girly. I can be sweet and spicy or salty and spicy. Those are your two versions that you're going to get. Maybe even sour and spicy, but there's always spice every time. That's what I strive for here. So you might get a little bit of a mix of flavors, but Kiana is so sweet. She's so sweet. One of my friends, like Eric loves Kiana. And he was like, oh my gosh, he's like, I hope you can collab with her someday. And I'm like, I totally would. I'm like, but she is so sweet. I just feel like I'd start laughing if I talk to her because she's so sweet. I just be like, oh gosh, like I feel like I'm gonna be like, the freaking mega bitch compared to her on this video or on like whatever we would do. Uh, but yeah, she's so sweet. She's a very, very sweet person. Yeah, so let's see. Satellite Man says it's not nonstop insulting though. It's just viewing and opinions. Rarely ever will you hear them actually talk about their weight or the way they look as an obese person, but you see foodie that lie constantly about her husband to own the haters, and ALR hides what she does or what she actually does or how she eats in a day, and it's obvious and people are just tired of the lies. Yeah. When I think too, there's a lot of logic where it's like they've done something bad or there's something wrong that they've done. So it's okay to bash them about everything. Now I am like, you guys know, I'm a spicy girly. I'm a spicy girly pop. So I don't care, like insult people, say things, whatever. Like I'm not the nice police. I don't care at all. But like I was watching Mr. Snowflake and he was talking about how Amberlynn is like the most unattractive person ever. So it's like they do get kind of shady, but I don't care if they're shady. I just care when they're like, well, I'm a nice person. And it's like you have to be careful when you're judging people because it's like if you judge Amber for not being nice, but then you're also not nice, then you can be hypocritical. Like I would never judge somebody for not being nice because I'm not. So I'm just not going to go there. There's certain things I wouldn't do. Like I would never be a William, you know? But I think it's interesting. Yeah, I don't know who that is. Okay. I need to know who that is. You guys are giving shade, but I don't know who that is. Cool Cat says not sugar spice and everything not nice. Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah. The more toxic ones are more noticeable. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, so it just depends. Like I think there's shade all around. But it doesn't matter to me. I think too people do the channels because they get views. People are really interested. People are so interested and that's good. Like I think people's lives are interesting. I have no judgment whatsoever. If anything, I can admire some of these YouTubers for being able to be so interesting or do such weird stuff where it's interesting. Like I said, I particularly like watching Anna O'Brien because I'm like, I'm like, whoa, So it's like, I mean, that takes effort, to be interesting. Silver Punk Skull says, I don't really consider Alex not nice / mean. You have enough empathy that I can tell you're just telling the truth. Yeah, I would say so. But I do like being mean too. So it's like, it depends. But I think you're probably right. I'm probably just neither. I can be, or I'm bi. I'm both. But I'm spicy. Like I said, I can be sweet and spicy sometimes. That works too. But it was funny to do my poem too at the end of the video. That poem, oh my God. If you guys didn't make it to the end, like I read one of my poems and it was so salty. That was like a salty, spicy moment. I passed my class at FU. I passed my poetry class, but I got a C average because I wrote a very average poem. But it did help me with my breakup. It did. You know what sucks though is like, or it wasn't even a breakup because we were never together, but my situationship dissolving. It was funny though because when I read it at the coffee house after it was over, the guy that was hosting the poetry night, he's like, it's a good thing it was after 10 because that was not family friendly, blah blah. And I was like he acted like I was like Ice Spice on stage. Like I wasn't. It was very, very uh it was very hidden, you know? I mean, it was subtle, but not for like adult ears, I guess. Like adult ears could understand the metaphor, but it's like, it's not like I was like, my pussy this, my pussy that. Like I wasn't saying that. It wasn't like that. So I was irritated. But that whole night, the whole reason I got up and read that poem is because nobody was reading poetry. It was all like Marissa Matthews level poems. And it's like, I need there to be an actual poem on here. So I got up and I read that. And people were like, oh my gosh. And like literally the person that went before me, they were like, yeah, it was like this lesbian chick. And she was like, yeah, she's like, to be honest, like the situation, because she read like a poem where she was slightly angry at the other girl. And then afterwards, she was like, honestly, we've totally reconciled and we're on good terms now. And it's nothing bad. Like, don't worry about it. And she like got off stage. And then I went right on stage after and I was like, so this is a poem I wrote. And for the record, we haven't reconciled and we're not on good terms at all. And here we go. So that's how I introduced it because I was like, let's have an actual poem here. Like, let's have an actual emotion. Like, I'm dying. But I might go back when I go to Cali. Hopefully, I'm hopefully going to Cali in August, and I might go back with Eric. And I told him I was like, I want you to read your poetry because he's more of a poet. I'm not. But yeah, it's just funny. I'm glad some of you guys liked it. So let's see. Feline says, I don't know what this is. I can't. Oh my gosh, that is so extra. I had to look. Extra. You are bad for that. Bad. Okay. Anyways. Bad. Bad person. Okay. So let's see. It could be metaphorical. That makes sense with the beauty standards pressure. What makes sense? The beauty. Oh, okay. Satellite Man says it's one of the areas their arguments hold truth. Women have been held to a higher standard of being thin than man. It is reasonable for that expectation to be tiring. Yeah, I think it can be, but I think too it is also a self-imposed expectation. So it's self-imposed, but also not. So it's like it can go both ways. But I think it's because a lot of women they have more of that hypo weight gain where they're not like super eating a lot, kind of thing, and they're just like, I don't get why I'm this fat. And so I think that is like that can be an issue when it comes to that kind of thing. So let's see. Cool Cat says, my bussy sad AF. Alex's poetry probably. Yes, that's what they acted like I said, basically on stage. It's like I didn't say that. Yeah, but I agree with that too. Like I agree with all of those statements on that, but I think it's mostly because a lot of women are very hypo and they don't realize it too, because they're taking birth control or they're not eating any meat. Like it's very common for women to just like eat like no meat or have like very little or have like, I only have chicken breast once a week or something. You know what I mean? Like very, very low amounts. So those kind of things can set you up. Like I think there's certain expectations on women to eat a certain way. Like it's seen as like really masculine to eat a steak, for example, even though women tend to need more iron than men. So it's like the opposite. Yeah, basically, it's like women in general need more iron and they're getting a lot less. And that can also make you hypo, just having an iron deficiency. So I think that there's like a lot of these different things. So yeah. There are male beauty standards too, especially in the gay community. Yeah, there are for sure. I think it's a little bit less with Gen Z, I've noticed. But it was definitely relevant before Gen Z in the gay community. I don't even really know what to make of the Gen Z gay community. I'm gonna be honest. I struggle. I struggle to understand. I don't get it. It's tough. It's weird, but it's very different. So I don't know if they feel that way as much. Like some of them do for sure, but some of them really don't. So I think it's kind of normalized. And so I think a lot of like the fatness issues, they're not really gay or straight anymore. They're just like blah. Does that make sense? So it's that kind of thing. Fair enough. Life after losing. Okay. I know, Rosie. I know. That's how salty I was. I told you I was salty and spicy that day. When I wrote that poem, I was salt of the earth. I was so mad. I was so just like, oh my gosh. I was so I almost said gut hurt. I was so butt hurt. I was butt hurt and filled with gut hate for the person when I wrote it. So, I mean, you know, it's a very salty thing, but I think poetry is supposed to make you uncomfortable or it's supposed to do these things. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, let's see. I'm gay Gen Z. What do you think is so different? Most people my age I know have pretty normal views. Normal how? Normal by Gen Z standards? No, I'm just kidding. um, I think it's just like, okay, just hear me out. Like when we were, I think like millennials and Gen X and older, it's like being gay, there was a lot more of a separation from mainstream society. And so there was more of a separated culture and more of a separated experience. And I think because there was a lot more acceptance, even socially, like when I was growing up, there was not like gay bashing, for example. So it was not like violent as much. Really, really wasn't. They tried to act like it was, but I think it was a lot of Gen Xers and TV and stuff that were scarred because when Gen X was younger, it was really bad. And I respect that. I totally do because it was very real. But as a millennial, being gay became like being fat or having a big nose. Like it was different, but it was still shameful. Does that make sense? It's shameful, it's shady, but it wasn't like you're going to get beat up and like killed because of it. It wasn't on that level. So it was less of an issue, but it was still like an issue. And so I think like for Gen Z, it became even less of a delineation. And so in general, not all obvi. Yeah, for sure. Life after losing. I'm just describing what I'm just trying to break down how it's changed. But for in general, Gen Z hasn't experienced that level of shaming that millennials did. Now you are still on the older end of Gen Z, so you know, it's a gradient, right? Like culture was still shifting and things were changing as you were growing up. But when I talk about Gen Z gays, I'm talking about like somebody who's 20. You know, like it's very different. But you're more on the cusp, so you're going to have like a shared experience where you're kind of in between. But that's how I would describe it. That's what I'm trying to say in terms of like it's just there's less of a delineation. It's more similar to being straight now than it was when I was younger. There's less of a difference, which is a good thing, actually. So when it comes to like fatness and beauty standards, a lot of especially feminine gay men, they have an experience at this point more similar to like a heterosexual woman. So it's actually much more similar than it used to be, vastly different in the olden times. And it's not that different at this point. So that's what I mean. So it's like there's a really different experience. Um like Gen Z, they're very like entitled when it comes to sleeping with somebody. I'm not used to that. You know, like when I was growing up, there's a level of secrecy involved and subtlety. And that still exists in millennial gay men to this day. Like if I were to go on Grindr right now, there'd be a lot of guys in their 30s that are like, I'm on the DL. I don't want anybody to know. And that's kind of what I'm saying. Whereas like in Gen Z, it's not as much like that. There can be, but it's usually because they have a girlfriend because they're usually bi when they're secretive like that. But it's just a little different. That's all. Yeah. Yeah. Mark C says, I grew up in a super conservative area, so maybe I have a similar experience to you just because of how conservative it was. I can see what you mean. And that's totally valid. I think small town America, you know, it was kind of like slower on that train. But I grew up in California, you know, so for me, 2000s California is probably like your small town in the 2010s kind of thing. It's like a little bit different. So it's just different. And when I talk about it, I mean it in a general sense. Like when William is saying gay fat, I have never heard that term in my life. That is not something I have ever heard of in my entire life. So I'm like, I don't know what the hell he's talking about. Um, Steve says, I don't like everything has been lumped in under this vague LGBTQ, blah, 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 umbrella. I agree. I don't like it either, to be honest. Um, in the media, they never use the words gay or lesbian anymore. It's all just LGBTQ plus. Yeah, I agree. And I'm more of a person where it's like, I feel like the LGB experience is really different than the other side. So I don't understand why they're connected because they're totally different. And so I just don't get it, honestly. I've never understood why they were connected. Even from a young age, I didn't understand because it was such a different thing. Um, it's just totally not the same. So I don't get it. I still don't get it. Mark C says, I did go to an LGBT group once of people my age where it was a ton of non binary people saying they weren't men or women, even though they couldn't explain why. Maybe I'm too conservative to get that. I don't know. I don't know. All I can say is it's not similar at all to being gay or bi. Like it's not. So I'm like, I don't know. Like if I were to try to go to a group of gay men, which I wouldn't anyways, because I find those spaces kind of cringe, honestly. I've tried, but I just, you know, at their worst, they're really toxic, and at their best, they're really like cringy to me. So I just tend to avoid it like the plague. But in terms of like if it was like a bunch of non-binary people, I'd be like, what does this have to do with being gay? Like this is not similar at all to me. Like I don't understand. Um they weren't even androgynous or anything. They were just like, I'm not a woman, and then talked about wanting to give birth like 5 seconds later. Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get it. You had to work more and impress your potential partners. Interesting. Life after losing. Yeah, I could see that, Steve. Physically, careers, social status, and so on. I miss that. Things are basic now and boring. I know. That's funny. I mean, to be fair, like, I don't know. I tend to like foreign guys, and they're different than American gay men. I don't hate American gay men, but I don't know. I just haven't really connected that much. I've had a lot of false starts in that type of thing. But these days, it's a lot of guys that are just like, I have a girlfriend. And it's like, I'm not interested in that. Like, you need to figure that out. And like, I'm not like totally feministy and like, I'm a girl's girl and all that. But I am like, I am not ever going to do that to a girl. Like, I have enough respect for women that I would never do that. So I'm never going to do it. It's like, if you had a girlfriend, then you're not going to be with me. First of all, that girl is probably going to murder me if she finds out. because that's the thing too. It's dangerous. Those are like dangerous situations. So I don't trust stuff like that. And also, it's just very bad juju. But there's a lot of that. And there's a lot of like, Gen Z is weird because they're like, I won't want a relationship, but I want to like have a friends with benefits, but I want to like be entitled as a relationship, but not have the commitment. And it's like, that is a nightmare. I am not going to go for that. Like, you've got to be kidding me. It's like a guy is breathing down my neck. When are you getting off of work? When are you going to come over? When are you going to do this? I'm like, off. Like, when are you going to do all this? I don't even want to be your boyfriend and I don't want any commitment. I don't want you to tell me to do anything, or I don't want anything. I don't want to have to sacrifice anything, but I want everything. And I'm just like, no. And I don't know if that's just like my super feminine experience with Gen Z gays, but I've had that experience and I'm like, honey, no. Like, this cow does not give the milk for free. I want a commitment, period. I am not going to do all that. And I am not doing an open relationship. I'm not doing anything like that. You can just F off, literally. Like, no way. I am a monogamous queen. I am not into all that crap. So, no. Sexual Alter says, also, you can be reported for talking negatively about. Oh, okay. I didn't say anything bad, so whatever. I guess we have to enforce things when I say I don't get it. So, do you guys think that saying you don't get something is bad? Is that a negative thing to say you don't get it? Think about it. Let me know. To say that I don't get it and to say that it's not at all similar to being gay. How is that negative? Think about it. Yeah. I mean, I think you guys, I feel like if you have to like fight that hard, then maybe you're not that sure about what you're saying, because I'm just saying it's not the same. Yeah. I don't understand it and it's not the same. Those are two different things. But yeah, so I don't like the enforcement of that either, of like, oh, you have to be LGBTQ, whatever BS. I don't really like that because it's not similar. And it's like, we can't even talk about our issues. Oh, thank you, Sugar Ray. We can't even talk about our issues. I can't even talk about gay issues as a gay person because of that. Like, it's just weird. And I'm like, this isn't productive. It's not productive. But anyways, so yeah, that would be my take on all that. But that's kind of what I meant, I guess, if that makes sense. You didn't answer the question, Sexual Alter. Is that a negative thing to say that you don't understand something and to say that it's not similar to being gay? How is that negative? I want you to explain to me how that is negative. Right. Explain it. I don't think it's giving a positive or a negative spin. It's just pretty neutral of a statement. So you need to explain how it's negative. But they always get angry. I think people get angry with me because I challenge what they say, or I don't just go with something. Yeah, it's just an observation. To say I don't understand it, because I don't, and to say that it's not the same as being gay, which it isn't. Hello, Mysterious. I don't understand how that would be reportable. And I'd like you to explain why that has to be reported. That's all. Hi, Mysterious. Typical of people like you and Satellite Man to assume someone is a troll just because they don't agree. You're not providing any argument. So you need to provide an argument. You're not giving how is it negative? I want you to explain how it's negative. You don't say anything. So explain how it's negative. I want you to explain. Yeah, they don't. Yeah, I don't think it will either because I didn't say anything negative. It's ridiculous. I had to call off work 2 days in a row for being sick. I can't shake this headache. Aw. Yeah, I agree with that, Steve. I do. I especially like that's what I was dealing with the seed oil person too. It's like I would bring up arguments, they wouldn't bring anything up. It's like there are a lot of people in the world where they want you to just accept what they think with no actual argument or no actual statement, explanation, nothing. And I just think that that's over. People don't listen to that anymore. And I don't think they should have ever listened to that. Yeah. I mean, I don't think they should have because that's what got us in this situation too when it comes to the fatness issue. Like, there's no logic or no arguments. It's just like, it's the same kind of entitlement of splotch where it's like you have to, um, it's the same kind of argument with splotch where you have to like just accept something, you know? They'll moralize instead of stating a genuine persuasive argument. We don't burn witches here, right? I'm gonna let you throw a tantrum, sexual alter, because I want everybody to see it. So I hope it just keep on going. I want everybody to see this. Um, so I tried to explain to somebody, I think I told David that the most homophobia I face is from the trans community these days. And that's what I'm experiencing now. Yeah. So that's what I tend to deal with. I'm not going to say that there aren't like radical Christians or alt right people that are the same way. But yeah, it's embarrassing. It's very embarrassing. So just blast it out. Go for it, girly, boily, daily. Go for it. Do it. Show it. Show it proud. Show it loud. I think sunlight is the best disinfectant. So I'm still waiting on an answer for my question. I never got one. So at this point, I'm just going to ignore what you say. Yeah, this is the behavior of someone with a clear reasoned position, not at all unhinged, pretty much. Pretty much. But anyways, you guys, that's kind of my stance on that stuff. It was fun to talk about it. Yeah, I'm just letting them spam because I want people to see the unhinged, but I'm not going to respond anymore. I'm done. Yeah, I agree, Kelly. But I appreciate you guys on here so much. I like the community we're building. Yeah, that too. Life after losing. I just think that the issues are different. I don't For me, there's no hate really. It's just there's a difference, and it's like we can't talk about our own issues. But for me, it's like me talking about, I don't even talk about like lesbian issues. Like I feel like that's a different category. So why shouldn't I be able to talk about gay issues, you know? Oh, Sugar Ray, my question was just if I say that non-binary, that I don't understand it and that it's not similar to being gay, how is that negative? That was my question. How is that a negative statement? Or how is that talking negatively about it? And there was no answer. You can definitely get a good read on whether someone's side of history is worth being based on how they act. It's not the same. I don't know. It's not the same at all. I don't think our issues would be the same. I don't think our discussions would be the same. Like I said, even like gays and lesbians, I think it's probably different. So it's like I'm talking specifically to a gay person in my chat about a gay question, and I should be allowed to do that as a gay person. As a gay man, I should be able to talk to another gay man about a gay issue or a gay question that he asked about. It's ridiculous. Tone policing is the way? I don't know. I'm not a part of that religion. I don't care. Like, I'm not like a super pious person in general. I'm not going to bow to anybody's thing. You know, I could listen to somebody tell me that listening to Taylor Swift is witchcraft, but I don't have to like that they said that. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to change my behavior, and I can roll my eyes if somebody says that seriously. Yeah, I'm not a pious person at all. I am a religious person, but I'm not pious because it's like I just don't think that that's the right way to be about anything, honestly. It's cringe, very cringe. But we should be able to discuss how we feel without them jumping in. I don't infiltrate on their issues. I don't either. I don't talk about it. I specifically have said I don't talk about it because I don't understand it. Especially as somebody who's super, like, I'm a very, very feminine man, and I still am like, I never had a desire to transition. So it's hard for me to understand. I feel like that should make sense to people because I don't get it, even as a super feminine guy. But I think my existence is very threatening to some people because they take my existence as an indictment on theirs. And that's not my problem. That's called projection. You know, I have no issue being a super feminine man, and I have no issue being one, even in the face of subtle homophobia. It doesn't bother me. I don't care. I'm not going to change for you. I'm not going to change for anybody. So, yeah, I don't care. I don't. But yeah. I was born in the 1950s. Tell me about it. I love that. Imagine wasting your own time in someone's chat room spamming instead of living your life. Yeah, exactly. I know. I love it, Mark, though. It's fine. Don't worry about it. People say that because I'm not feminine, that I'm faking or pretending it's all BS. Yeah, it is BS. I mean, and I think, you know, we've reached like a weird moment with Gen Z where it's like they tell me that I shouldn't be gay because I'm feminine sometimes. And I'm just like, you guys need to chill. Like, holy crap. You know, it's like, I just, again, we're talking about gay issues again. I'm sure somebody's going to be so mad, but it's like, you can be feminine, gay, masculine. You can be gay in anything. It's like, it doesn't determine anything really, other than that you're attracted to men, you know? And there are even some gay men who are attracted to trans men. So even on that level, it's a mix. You know, there's a mixture of stuff going on. So I don't know. It's like live your life, you know, do what you got to do. Like I don't know. I can't be bothered with what goes on in every other person's mind or like how other people think. It's like I can't. Like I really can't. I don't have time. I'm too busy being bothered about what Taylor Swift is thinking. No, I'm just kidding. But kidding, but not. But it's like ridiculous. People say that because I'm not. Oh, I already read that. We love you for it, Mark. Yeah, I know. We all love the spice. You guys love it. Cool Cat says that's so homophobic. I agree. It is. It is. There's homophobia all over. You know, the political spectrum. I mean, or there's bigotry all across the aisles. Like I always say that. I always say bigotry is not political. It's just a quality of a person. You know, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. You know, we still live in the world and we just have to figure it out. But I think I just judge people based as an individual, basically. And I have a lot of people I like on the right. I have a lot of people I like on the left. And I have a lot of people I don't like on both sides. So I feel like that's pretty obvious. So, we love that. I love being a centrist queen, a center right queen, but still, it's pretty centristy, pretty boring. That's why I'm not a political channel, because my views are really boring, honestly. Um, super boring. Not to everybody, I guess, but to me, they are. They're really boring to me. Um, anyways, Life After Losing says, I work on cars and like camping, still not attracted to women, never even slept with a woman. Basically, what is Taylor Swift thinking? Taylor Swift she's hating on Kim Kardashian, and I'm living. I'm living for it. And her thank you, Amy. That's what she's thinking. She's calling out Kim Kardashian and she's being messy, and I love it. And it's bad, and I get it, and I totally get why people criticize her for it, but that's what she's thinking. So but yeah, this was fun overall. Thank you guys so much for being here. And yeah, I guess I'm going to probably hop off because I still have to work, but I'm still transitioning in terms of to YouTube. So hopefully one day I will be full-time and only YouTube full-time, but I still have to work. So I will get back to you guys later. But I appreciate you guys so much. I appreciate this community. I appreciate you guys being a part of the fight and being star pupils at FU. Now, we do have somebody who is, disrupting the class, but that's okay. This professor allows discussion. So I love that song, Doris. I'm obsessed with it. I'm obsessed. Like, one last gay statement before I go. I feel like the FU Amy song is like, FU Amy is like a Capricorn song trying to pretend to be a Taurus. And I love it. And it is really gay and really obnoxious. And I just live. I love it. I love it. It's like one of my favorite songs. Anyways, you guys. Bye. Bye, Marcella. Bye, everybody. Have a good one. Peace.